just to be clear, layoffs are at top of mind for so many of the businesses that reach out to me. I mean, every single week they're talking about how can we manage our labor costs? How can we, you know, balance keeping the people, those A players, those top tier talent, and then find ways to augment everyone else. And one of the questions that I bring back to them is like, well, who actually holds your team together? That is something that many business owners just they don't realize, or they have a cursory understanding of those individuals who really hold the team together, and they're affectionately known as glue employees. They keep everything kind of running, and I've seen a major uptick in business owners who are not looking at the whole picture when they're looking at their employees, and that is to their detriment. We're going to take a look at an article today from McGraw Hill. It's actually from, they do a little teaching and they're talking about how to use this in your business classes. And I thought it was a really great, quick article to be able to help highlight why understanding the importance of glue employees, how to identify them, and frankly, why you do not want to mistake someone who is a glue player for someone, a glue employee for someone who isn't. Can definitely have a detriment to your team. So let's get into it here. My name is Ryan Howe. I'm a business coach, works out of West Michigan and around the country. Come here live on YouTube, sharing information I share with my clients, and I hope to earn your subscription. Now, link is always going to be in the description. Be sure to go check that out. How glue employees strengthen teamwork and communication. Um, you know, for a very long time, I I misunderstood the importance of glue players. When I was younger, they didn't understand what they were doing. And then I was basically at an organization where we lost that person who was the glue employee. And all of a sudden it clicked like, oh man, these folks are important. And we got to find a way to not necessarily protect them, but make sure that they are valued appropriately. All right, now behind many thriving organizations are individuals who work quietly in the background to keep the group connected, focused, and functional. Behavioral scientist, again, John Levy calls these individuals glue players, employees who bind teams together through empathy, trust, and collaboration rather than authority or attention. Now, the phrase that I use with my clients, and I've been using glue employee on and off, but they're also your informal leaders. These are also people that fit this role. All right. Now, what is a glue employee? So we talk about they how do I want to say this here? They lead through relationships rather than titles, and that's why I say informal leaders. They hold team together like glue without expecting reward or recognition. These employees notice when other people are struggling, bridge communication gaps, ensure all team members feel included. You know, and the easiest way I've always found to identify those glue players in your organization, is there an individual, are there people where when you're having a day, like if you've been out, I say you've been out sick, or you've been having some issues, or you're just not feeling like you're off your game, right? We all have those days, and they naturally find you and say, hey, how you doing? Just checking in on you. Everything all right? You seem a little, wanted to see how you're doing, blah blah. And they just kind of do that check-in to see what might be nagging, just because they have their emotional intelligence is so high that they can tell when people's vibrations change, right? That's the best way I've always found to be able to identify these people. Now, these are folks that also are producing, right? They are doing their job, they do it well, and they have time intentionally within their day to make sure they're checking on others to keep them afloat. Okay. Let's see here. So a glue employee, here's some example. A glue employee might help a new team member feel welcomed in the organization, or smooth tension between departments before a conflict turns into something greater. They're going to be the one that's negotiating and having those and translating between those two warring factions. Now, organizations often overlook these contributions because they are not easily measured by sales numbers, project milestones, or other key performance indicators. And again, it's another bit of advice that I have for business owners, and I talk about this at length, is that you should have key performance indicators, 1000%. You should have those and be tracking that. But that's a quantitative measurement. We want qualitative as well. And sometimes that is just the feel, the vibe, the context, texture of the environment within these, that surrounds these folks. Okay. Can't really measure it always with a sales piece here. Now, small acts such as informally mentoring colleagues, clarifying miscommunications, and promoting collaboration can determine whether a team functions or falls apart 100%. Glue employees often act as informal leaders. That's what I mentioned on there. They may not hold management titles, but their peers naturally seek them out for guidance and support. Another great way to identify somebody who is a Glue employee, right, that informal leader, if you're in a meeting and someone says something that mm, people aren't 100% certain that they want to fall in line with, they're not sure how they should react, look at who they look to, right? You'll say something, kind of catch everybody off guard. They will naturally turn to one person and look for their reaction. And if that person is like, oh yeah, it's a good idea, everyone else will kind of follow along. If they're like, I'm not sure, they're going to naturally be like, well, hold on, let's be hesitant here, because this individual, let's call her Sally, is the informal leader, that Glue employee that is really providing the frame when which people need to make their decisions off. Okay. All right. And it's the last piece here. Again, these employees influence workplace culture more effectively than high level managers because their leadership merges organically. Now, we're going to get back to the article here in a second, but I want to take a second and really talk about that here. And this is the issue that we're running into, right? Right now, so many business decisions, specifically around layoffs, are being made by numbers, right? They're simply just using data and saying we need to get rid of 15% of these folks. And here's the 15%. And they're going to use some sort of arbitrary metric to decide who they're going to lay off. And that's, baby with the bathwater type mentality. That's what's happening. They are not typically, and what's happening is larger organizations, they're not making a holistic decision. They're making basically a bottom line financial fiscal decision, which can and will lead to, really letting the wrong people go, even if you do have to cut jobs, diminishing exactly what these folks bring. And it's trouble all the way. And we're seeing this with these huge layoffs, especially in the tech world. Tech world over the last 3 years has been absolutely decimated, but October was the highest month for layoffs in the history of the country. Like, it was number of people who were let go, percentage wise, right? It was just a huge number. And with those folks, I guarantee you there was very minimal discussion with the first line supervisors, who you really should be in contact with, to say, hey, we need to let some folks go here. Here's what the math is telling. Here's what the numbers are saying, our projections off of, ratings, or whatever it is. Do you agree? Right. And that's that qualitative measurement. And that's where, we are missing the boat on so much of this here, that yes, we may need to let some folks go. And that's a lot of the calls that I get with clients, is that people are inquiring, asking about what to do. But yeah, we do need to cut our labor rate. I understand that. Man, we need to make sure that we are not causing these second and third order effects, which is exactly what happens when you let these Glue employees go, right? These informal leaders, they provide they also provide that trust factor between the employees and the employer, right? It's not just between employees. It's not just between sections. It's going to be between the employer and the employees, where if that Glue employee, right, says, yeah, this is something we want to do and I support it, that's going to naturally provide, some level of trust that happens organically. Okay. And when you get rid of those folks, you undercut that. Now, the influence of Glue employees is especially visible in how they communicate. Formal communication follows organizational hierarchies, such as reports to supervisors or meetings with department heads. Informal communication, on the other hand, happens in everyday interactions, such as side conversation, online chats, supportive messages, and on-the-fly check-ins. We talked about those earlier. The shift towards remote and hybrid work has made informal connections harder to build and sustain. However, they still exist. And, those folks are still out there doing their best to check in on everybody, even in the remote world. Now, as companies moved online, many business leaders have worried about how organizational culture will be affected. Yet, as Bloomberg's reporting on remote work culture shows, healthy interactions do not depend on physical offices, not always. Culture exists where people communicate, whether face-to-face or through digital platforms. I remember my time in the military. We had individuals who were, deployed to remote locations, islands in the middle of the Pacific. They may be the only person in, like, I was in the Air Force at a Army post. And those conversations back and forth over phone and email, you were really able to build some level of rapport just to check on them and make sure they're good. So this is definitely something that's there, it exists, and it definitely can happen. Okay. Um, Now, some companies are beginning to change this, introducing peer nominated awards that recognize teamwork and mentorship. Again, neat. They're going to have those awards here. But I do love this one. This is one of my favorite questions that I've had this on here. Who helped you succeed this quarter? Which employee, which colleague strengthened the team? Right. And that's given an opportunity to, those folks to be able to recognize those informal leaders who don't necessarily have the title. And I can say this, definitively. The the businesses undervalue the importance of these, again, of these individuals, of these glue employees, these informal leaders. They always have, and unfortunately, they always will. So, what do you need to do about this? Why am I bringing this up? Well, with my clients, what I talk about, and I've talked about them at length about this, and we talk about it all the time. We need to make sure we know exactly who those informal leaders are at all times, because those are the people that you need to be checking in with. You're getting your pulse check, your vibe check, how people are feeling, how they're handling things. That occurs through those communications with those informal leaders. The thing with that glue employee, they also are able to communicate in between the chain without really, up and down the actual leadership chain, without really frankly bothering anyone. They're somebody who can get a pulse of what's going on at this, they're at this level, right? Whatever they happen to be, supervisor, whatever. They're at this level. They're getting all the, blah, blah, blah going on down here. They're able to communicate up just through their natural informal position and how they manage themselves to leadership to explain, hey, this is what people are feeling like. This is what they're enduring. This is what's happening. And then they can translate what management's doing or thinking of doing down to that next level. It's a very, very undervalue, underrated skill set and service these individuals are providing for the company. And that is why I spend so much time, and I'm raising the flag here right now, is like, listen, I understand you want to go after A players. Not everyone's an A player. Some of the best, most important employees that I've ever had have been the B player. They come in and, and again, simply just meaning, and this is nothing against folks that are this, that want to do this. They come in, do their job. They take, and they do their job very, very well, but they have no aspirations for higher levels of leadership. Right? They want to come in, just do the job they're paid to do, which is awesome. I love that. Love that for folks. We got to protect those individuals. This up and out, up or out mentality that is, you have to constantly keep climbing. I'm just not a big fan of that. There are plenty of people who are extremely important, extremely valuable, who come into work, and that's what they do. They just come into work and do their job. And while they're there, they take care of the team, and they're there to, again, hold everything together. So, folks, big thing here is just know this. There are businesses who are now starting to realize, as they are implementing AI, right? And they got more large language models, and they've been laying people off. They are realizing, unfortunately, too late, that when they let somebody go, these, again, who are B players, that they have them identified that way, that they are letting them go, and it's having a dramatic negative effect on their business and their teams. So they are adjusting the way that they're looking and valuing these employees. So if you're a business and you are like, hey, Ryan, what the hell do I do with this? You've been talking about undervaluing this, and well, I want all A players. I don't understand this. What I would say is, like anything in life, too much of anything is not a good thing. So we need to have some sort of balance. And your A players, your top tier players, those folks that are on the track that are eventually going to be a CEO and up on the board and doing all that stuff, that's a small sliver. The folks that are there, that make things happen, that get the work done, and are the ones that you need to make sure you protect, they live right there in the middle. And within that middle, there is a very, very small subsection, which is your glue employees. And you want to make sure that you are talking to them, checking in with them, and getting the real pulse of where your culture's at. So that way, when you unfortunately do have to let some folks go, you're gonna have a better idea where it's at. And on the flip side of that, when you go to hire, they are also going to be extremely valuable to give you some better insight on exactly what's going on there. Okay. Again, you need to value all your employees. This is not saying you need to have favorites, but Glue employees give you a very unique view into your office culture and how things are actually running. You need to protect that at all costs. Okay. So with that, I appreciate everybody who hung out this long. Hopefully I earned your subscription today. Take care. We'll see you next time.